Hello, 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 hello. Hi everyone, how are you? Thank you so much for joining me. It's Sunday, 4 p.m. and you know what time it is? It is time for Sheila's DG Talks, where we host a range of personalities, newsmakers, executives, leaders in different capacities to share with us and engage with us during this lockdown, also post-lockdown, because we intend to keep these conversations going even after COVID-19. So I see a lot of you joining. Thank you so much. I'm trying to, we're still in time, on time actually, we're now on time. Let's just give a few more people about 1 or 2 minutes. I've already seen my guest has already joined, so anytime from now, I should be adding her on to this platform. Okay, so what I'm going to do, as usual, I'm going to type the topic here so that anyone that joins can catch up and know what exactly we're talking about, okay? Effect of... In the meantime, please let your friends know that we're about to start COVID-19 on UNRA projects. And my guest today, I'm trying to pin the topic, so don't worry. Guest is UNRA ED, Miss Allen Kagina. Dan Imuta, thank you for the question. I will definitely put them to her once we start this broadcast. Kagina. Okay, so that's our topic for today. I'm just trying to pin it for anyone that joins and might not know what exactly we're talking about. Okay, so first of all, a few housekeeping rules or online keeping rules. Please keep the questions as civil as possible. She's going to answer all UNRA related questions. And of course, we're going to try and keep this premises, so please, somebody try to call there. Okay, so housekeeping rules. Please try and keep your questions. I'm so sorry, I don't know what's happening. It keeps pausing. Okay. All right, so thank you very much. Ellison, thank you for joining us. Can you now hear me? Can you see me? Nick Listen, you say the connection is poor. Are you able to see me now? Can you give me some thumbs up if you can? If you don't, then we'll try and sort it before my guest comes on. Okay, so I've already seen that my guest has joined. I just want to be sure that we have a few more people and then we can start. Okay, so now it's okay, cool. All right, so let's do at 4, yeah? 4:04, and then we can start. In the meantime, we're going to be discussing the effect of COVID-19 on UNRA projects. And my guest today is Madame Allen Kagina, who is the Executive Director of Uganda National Roads Authority. But she also has held different portfolios. She has held different positions. So it's also a very important time for us to ask her how she's been able to do it. Especially if there are any ladies here, you definitely want to tune in and hear some inspiration. Okay, so let me bring her in now. Okay, let's start this conversation. I'm just waiting for her to connect. Alan Semperwa, thank you so much. I can see you. Thank you for joining us. I'm just connecting to Madame Allen. We should be able to start. All right, there you go. Hello, Miss Allen.
Hi, Sheila. How are you doing?
Very well. Thank you so much for joining us and for sparing time off your very busy schedule, I would imagine, to speak to us.
My pleasure.
Right. Okay. So first of all, just to set the record straight, I would like to know how I should refer to you as. Should I say Allen? Should I say Madame Edie? Should I say Miss Allen Kagina? How would you prefer me to refer to you as?
Just simply Alan.
Okay. Thank you so much, Alan, for accepting to speak with us. So first and foremost, I just wanted to pick your mind on the lockdown. How are you spending the lockdown yourself? How has it been for you as executive director of UNRA? But let's start with you as an individual. How have you been spending the lockdown and the extended lockdown so far?
Quite busy, actually. As you know, the construction industry was not one of those that were told not to work. So construction of roads continues, which means that UNRA must continue working. However, we, as much as possible, work from home and only allow essential staff to go to the field or to go to offices where they must. Now, as it is, because of the possibility of holding meetings online and exchanging emails and on other platforms, it's easy to carry on work in a kind of a reduced way, but we still work. So my day, I went to a meeting, I would just go on Microsoft Teams or Zoom or WebEx and we'll continue meetings. The documents that require signature are couriered to my house and I will sign them. If I need to sign any payment, online payment platform, which we do that. So basically, very well. What we're missing, I think, are being able to go on site. We only have projects.
Okay, I want to be sure that the viewers are not getting the feedback that I'm getting because your sound is cracking. Can I just ask our viewers to check and see if we have? Are you able to hear her? Can you just give me some thumbs up, those who can, please? I was hearing a bit of an echo. Okay, I'm just waiting for some feedback here to see that you're not cracking. The voice is not clear. Okay.
Voice. Closer because you might on.
Yeah, you might want to hold the phone, I think. I'm sorry. Because when you put it down, it affects the speakers. Yeah, I think.
Okay, would that be better, do you think?
Yeah, I think that should be fine because I'm getting you clear here. Can I just have two more people? Is the voice clear now? Do you want to say something?
Okay, I hope whoever is tuned in can now hear me. If not, please let me know and we'll find some other way to make sure it's clear for you.
I think that's fine now because I'm no longer getting the cracks that I was getting on my end. So it should be fine. So you might want to hold the phone throughout. I'm really sorry.
No problem.
Okay. Yeah. So, all right. So how has it been then for you as, somebody that supervises these projects? Has there been any alternatives for you during this lockdown? And how are you navigating that as the ED?
Okay, so this is what we did. We have a number of vehicles that were authorized to move in Kampala and upcountry on project sites. Not just for UNRA, but the contractors were able to get their vehicles authorized so that they could move. For each project, we have a project team. And so using those vehicles, they're able to go to site and supervise and submit reports online to their directors, for example, and then we'll share the reports every Monday with the management team. So in other words, what we have done is to craft standard operating procedures specifically for this period, which allow us to keep in sight all projects and the progress. And so reports keep coming in. If you have a project, say like Kapchora Swam, the site engineer, who is on site, is able to relay his report to his director, and then we'll share that report with the director every Monday morning. So yes, supervision is going on, and it's actually going on quite smoothly, but indeed, of course, the work is scaled down.
And how about internally? How have you been able to progress with I'm sure you have like a business continuity plan. How did you prepare, for instance, for COVID-19 when it first broke out as an organization?
Okay, so when we first got to see that this was quickly becoming a global problem, and that was early March, we set up a business continuity management team specifically for this. At that time, it wasn't a pandemic, but now it is. And they were detailed to prepare in advance for what might actually hit Africa and Uganda and how that would affect our work. We didn't have enough information like everybody else, so we invited Monica Musenero, who everybody should know by now. She's an epidemiologist, that word, which I can't pronounce very well. And
we got it.
We asked her to come and talk to us about infectious diseases and how they spread and what do we need to do. And we had quite a number of sessions. So by the time it hit Uganda, we had some fairly good knowledge and what we needed to do in case it came. And when it came, we had already prepared the materials. I mean, the hand washing equipment. We didn't have masks at that time. We didn't realize how big it was going to be globally. But we started the hand washing, the entrances of our building, entrances of project sites, and anywhere we could, we expected to have numbers. And then, of course, when the Ministry of Health began to make the announcements, then the social distancing started even before the lockdown. And that wasn't just in our offices, but on project sites as well, because we have camps, and camps tend to have a lot of people. So we also agreed how many numbers would be in office when, and how many people would be on project when. So all those standard operating procedures were initiated well in advance so that we would be able to protect not just ourselves, but our clients as well.
Mm-hmm. So have you had any issues of having to lay off people as is being seen or done in other organizations?
Well, no, not really. Even when we've scaled down work, they still remain UNRA staff. Government has not laid off anybody. We are a government institution. So what we have done is to ask people to take their leave because they simply can't work. Those who must be in office, of course, like I said, we call them back into office when we need them. The contractors have also similarly done the same. Some works can't take place. Works which require bigger numbers, for example, like drainages or earthworks. No, not earthworks, but drainages which require, say, more than 5 to 10 people. Some of that has scaled down. And so the contractors have focused on work that is done by machines and few people on site. And we continue to monitor that. We ensure, because we work together with the Ministry of Health, we ensure that the numbers are maintained and that the facilities for hand washing, even isolation, should it be necessary, are in place.
Okay.
Yes.
So the nature of this broadcast is that people send in questions. So I'm already seeing a lot of them coming through. I don't know if you want me to pick one or two for the start.
No problem.
Daisy asks, Daisy's asking, what is the update on I think that's the Kampala Ginger Express PPP?
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. That project is in, PPPs by nature are quite a long process. And because we're borrowing part of the cost of that project, currently Parliament is processing the loan. Part of that road will be financed by a loan and part will come from the private sector. So the loan is in Parliament for approval. Last week, the members of Parliament walked the route. And so we're expecting to hear the decision from Parliament on approval of the loans. At the same time, we started advanced procurement, and it is a 2-stage procurement. We initiated and got various companies to express interest. We are almost at the 2nd stage where we issue the bidding document to the shortlist. And while all that is taking place, of course, we're going through the process of land acquisition. So there's a lot of activity taking place.
And do we know when we might see some work starting?
We probably should be targeting sometime next year, maybe towards the second part of next year. Because when bids come in, there is a long process of evaluation before we engage a developer. So perhaps towards the end of next calendar year.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this COVID-19, of course, has come at a very critical time when we have flash floods, roads are being washed away. And there's a question here. Mm-hmm. How do you handle the washed away roads by floods in Kasese and Bundibuju? That's from Kato Asaf.
Yeah, it's quite a challenge. The flash floods couldn't have come at a worse time. Not only were we fewer in number, but we've also had budget challenges. When COVID started, naturally, most of the money available in our treasury had to go towards fighting the pandemic and everything related to that effort. So the normal release for managing roads, maintenance, development actually, and maintenance of roads has been reduced. It's delayed. I don't think it's reduced. It's delayed. So we then requested for emergency funds. When the rains came, bridges were washed away. We have landslides in some places, and some roads have actually become lakes. Kayunga Galilaya is completely flooded.
The Chitubulu one as well, I think.
Chitubulu is all right. Let me come to Chitubulu. Mm-hmm. But we have quite a few roads that the water has stopped, so they're not motorable. Chitubulu, we've had to protect the shores. If you go there right now, for the last days, we've been putting in place sandbags. We have a contractor on site. He will be putting hardcore, the big stones with the net, they're called gabions, so that the shore is protected. Otherwise, as the water rises, it's eating the edge of the road. So when we protect the shores, the waves will come and hit the gabions, but it will go back. The height of the road is still fairly all right. We think that it will not be submerged. But then this lake is so unpredictable because I'm told we've hit the highest level ever of Lake Victoria. The release of water from the dam, the increased release of water from dam, we thought should help, but then it also appears we have a lot of inflow into Lake Victoria. But we have engineers on site, and I just want to assure the public that all is well. Should we have any waves coming in, because those waves I think will come, they will go back. All the same, we are preparing the alternative. There is an old Entebbe road from Katabi, at the junction of Katabi to the junction of Waitababi, the traffic lights are. So that road is being prepared. If anybody needs to, if Chitubulu should talk, then we'll have an alternative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, I see that we've delved so much into what you're doing, but we might not have set the stage for UNRA's mandate, because there are people here who might be watching and don't actually understand what UNRA does, what KCCA does, what the local districts or local governments do. So what exactly, where is UNRA's mandate? Where do you stop in your construction of roads?
Okay, so this is how it goes. We have in Uganda about 1,400, I think 146,000 kilometers, all roads under what we call the national network, then the district roads, then the urban roads, and then we also have community roads. So all together, we're talking about 146,000 kilometers. Of that, UNRA manages 20,856. That is the main, what we call the main network, or the trunk roads from border to border, to key ports and installations, the big roads. But we also manage ferries. We currently have 11 ferries on the Lake Victoria, Lake Choga, and the River Nile. Then we manage the way bridges. I think we have about 9 to 10 way bridges to protect the roads from overloading. That encapsulates our mandate. We develop roads, we maintain them, and then we build ferries, we manage them, and then we protect that asset.
Okay. Man, there are loads and loads of questions here. So let me just start from the top. The suspension of weighbridges operations as a measure by UNRA to counter the spread of the virus has led to the increase of overloaded trucks on our roads, which in turn is spoiling our road infrastructure. Are you, first of all, aware about that as UNRA, and what measures are you putting in place?
Yeah, we took an informed decision to close weighbridge operations because weighbridges tend to be places of congregation. We often have a lot of people around weighbridges. When we stop trucks, there are many truck drivers who congregate around the stations. They park in the yard, they cook their food, some stay there overnight. And we thought it would quickly become hotspot for spread of COVID. What we continue to do is communicate and sensitize on radios and televisions and any medium that we can get and appeal to the drivers not to overload. Fortunately or unfortunately, I think the number of vehicles on the road have also reduced. The cargo trucks, if you look at how much we used to bring in through Malaba alone, I think over 3,000 vehicles, those numbers have gone down. So the impact, there will be some impact, unfortunately, but we also know that a number of Ugandans are well aware of who has been overloading, especially the Transporters Association. And we work very closely with them. We sometimes have running battles with them, but they do a lot of self-monitoring.
Okay, so there's another question from the Infrastructure magazine, UG. I think they do reporting on infrastructure, as the name suggests. They say, for clarity, would you say that none of the UNRA existing projects have been stopped because of COVID-19?
We have not stopped any projects at all. However, one or two contractors have come back to us and say, we are not able to proceed. And so they will suspend and then will ask for extension thereafter. But what has happened is actually they also have scaled down and some are doing minimal work. Others are working well about 50 to 60%. So I'm not aware. We have certainly ourselves, we have not stopped any project, but you have expressed difficulties in getting people to site and even encamping people on site. The others seem to do
so
well.
here's sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, so there's a futuristic question. Augustine 2060 asks, do you ever see UNRA developing capacity to a point where they can compete for road construction projects in other countries, just like how Chinese state-owned enterprises do?
Okay, there was a bill in Parliament, I think it's probably still there, for development of a local industry, a local construction industry, a company actually, it's not industry, but a company to compete with the private sector to build enough capacity. That bill has not passed as far as I know yet. So what we have done in UNRA is to, in a very limited way, have built in-house capacity to do small roads and supervision of small projects. The intention is not to compete with the private sector because we think the private sector are well equipped to develop and maintain the roads. So we work alongside them for supervision purposes and make sure that is quality delivered. However, once that is and companies put in place, then we will be able to have a Ugandan company that is able to compete for roads just like anyone else.
Are there any challenges that you anticipate as UNRA post-COVID-19?
Yes, COVID-19 has come with a whole lot of challenges, mainly because people were not able to move, so there has been a slow process, slow progress projects, and therefore completion of projects in time will be a challenge. But also we owe the contractors quite a big chunk of money, mainly because in this season we're not able to pay. We didn't have a budget, so we're not able to pay. So they are cash strapped, and will require that all the arrears are paid before they can begin to operate normally. This should rectify itself once all the arrears are paid and their workers are back on site and the economy is flowing. Because when money flows through a project, it doesn't just benefit the project, it benefits communities and those who depend on these projects. So one of the challenges that we think we might have for maybe a few or so months is paying off all the arrears and also getting everybody back on site.
Diba Mwine asks, can she make it clear that not all roads in the country are not UNRA roads? Everyone thinks every bad road is for UNRA, which is so bad. So
yes,
please make it clear.
Yes, so we only manage 20,856 of the 146,000 roads. The rest are managed by districts and urban authorities. Like KCC has quite a number of roads here in Kampala and the metropolitan area. And so Jinja has its Jinja town, or is it Jinja city, has its own roads. Mbara has its own roads. So we only manage what I call the trunk roads. Like say, just to give you an example, say from Malaba through Jinja, through Kampala, Mbarara.
So the highways, basically.
The highways, yeah, absolutely, yes.
Right. Okay, so this is Diba Mwine there. Please, I hope you can pass on this message that not all bad roads are for UNRA. Okay, so there's another one. Sorry, I think your voice is cracking again, Alan.
Okay, so
you may want to.
I was responding to Diba that UNRA has some really good roads. Not all roads are bad.
Okay, there's another question on low volume of roads. Let me find that. Omontwabant says, what is UNRA's plan for the low volume roads that were in the pipeline? Any updates?
Yes, there are some roads which don't have heavy traffic. And so what we do is we prepare what we call a low cost seal. It will not be as heavy in regard to, say, paving the top layer. It will be a lighter seal than we would have, say, for example, on the current roads that we're doing, Northern Bypass or Entebbe Expressway, the major roads. And that helps preserve the life of the road for quite a bit of time. It can go up to 10 years if it's well maintained. So the idea was to do a number of roads without a lot of traffic as low volume roads. However, there's been an interruption in that program because of funding. So it's on hold. When funding resumes, then we shall resume the program as well.
Okay, how much do you need? And is it taxpayer or is it supposed to be like a donor funded kind of PPP, or those are the terms that you use?
Yes, most of our roads are actually funded by the government of Uganda. And then a portion of it will come from development partners, from multilateral banks like the African Development Bank, the World Bank, the European Union, JICA, the Japanese Agency for International Development, and several other development partners, the Islamic Development Bank. So we work with those partners to fund the road development program. What we have this year is definitely not enough to do the entire road program that we have. And so what we do under the financing program for roads, we try and complete roads before we bring others on board. And as more roads come on board, more money is required.
I think a very critical question. Somebody just posed a question here, which has been in my mind for a long time. Elias Mogisa, how has the ferry services been affected by the increasing water levels of our water bodies? And that's Lake Victoria, of course.
Very significantly, Elias. what has happened is that as the lake water rises, the landing sites have been submerged. In fact, out of the 10 ferries operating right now, one ferry hasn't been commissioned yet, but we have 10 ferries that are operational. Only 2 are working because the landing sites have been submerged by water. So we have a project in place right now for engineering of landing sites so that they're able to take on greater water levels. In addition, of course, we have the floating vegetation on Lake Victoria and on the River Nile. Some of our ferry routes have been interrupted by floating vegetation, and they can be quite a challenge because they destroy the engines of the ferries. So we are trying to battle with that, dredging, using our long arm excavators so that we remove the obstacles in the route. Yeah.
So do we know how much of an impact this has caused to the country? I'm quite sure that we had maybe goods that were coming on, via water. Do we know how much of an impact this has caused?
The increased water levels coincidentally have come at around the same time that there's been reduced movement because of COVID. So the movement that has been affected is vehicles that carry goods. Because when we started the SOPs for COVID, we restricted all ferry routes we removed all passengers we stopped carrying passengers on the ferries and only carried cargo or essential stuff like the medical workers. And so in any case, we did not have a lot of movement during this period, even when the water levels went up. So the interference we have now is that cargo, which is moving, say, from one district to another, will have to take a long route rather than use a shorter ferry crossing. For Jinjambulamuti, must now use Jinja Kamuli before they used to use, the Mbulamuti, Kayunga Mbulamuti ferry, which was a very short distance. The same for other ferry routes like Choga, the ferries on Choga. Now people must drive long distances to be able to carry their cargo. So the sooner we can get better landing sites or increased landing sites, increased levels of the landing sites, the sooner we can go back to business.
Okay, I can tell you, I don't think I've received as many questions as I'm receiving in this broadcast. Okay, Nasali Fatia, who is a colleague of mine at NBS, is asking, how much does it cost UNRA to maintain roads being damaged by heavy trucks, and could the activation of air cargo carriers lessen the burden?
Air cargo. Air cargo is very expensive. Better rail. Actually, the cheapest mode of transport is water, followed by rail, road, and then air. So if we could get water transport moving, the bigger ferries, you remember the Kabalidas, those really did help at that time. The focus should now actually be on rail, because rail is cheaper, you can move bigger loads, and then you protect the roads from these heavy trailers that ply our routes. So the maintenance of roads, because of overloading, I don't really have the figures with me right now. I didn't anticipate your question. But because our team was very active before COVID-19, we had reduced the overloading from about 40 or 50% about 5 years ago, about 3%. The teams were very tough, but even more importantly, we had greater compliance because of the self-monitoring I was telling you about. People were a lot more careful, and also the cooperation with our neighbors in Kenya, in Rwanda, in Tanzania, that helped reduce the overloading. There will always be errant people, they'll make that 3%.
So I think the overloading is in regard to COVID-19 and the fact that we're having a lot more trucks than the usual private cars, and perhaps less the water transport. So we have a lot more trucks on the road than probably there was. I don't know, this is not backed by any statistic, but I would imagine. So I think that's what Fatia was also asking.
It's the reverse, actually. We have fewer trucks. We have fewer trucks, like I said a little bit earlier, we have fewer trucks we're seeing at our borders. The movement of cargo has also been affected by COVID. So there are fewer trucks. The impact is probably there. We don't know because we are not weighing. But I think some of the damages that people are seeing may also just be due to the increased amount of water that we have, and also because we are currently not maintaining as we should because of funding.
Right. Nicholson asks, the Northern Bypass, which is definitely under UNRA, has taken many years to be completed. What is the problem? That is my addition. He did say, what is the problem? I'm just asking, what is the problem?
I knew it was coming. Yeah, so the Northern Bypass, when it was conceived, it was a two-stage construction program. First, the single carriageway, which was completed in 2014, I think, and then the dual link, which started then to date. When the dual link started, it became very clear that the land use around the Northern Bypass changed from the time of project conception, which I think was in earlier 2008 or 9. The land use, we didn't have as many people living along the northern route. There were not many landowners. The swamps were free. They didn't have people encroaching on them. The traffic was a lot less. Kampala has grown very, very fast, so the numbers are huge. People live very close to the roads. It meant that as we were dualing, we needed to acquire more land. And land acquisition around this city is really complicated. But in addition to that, we needed to raise, if you remember the initial phase 1, all the junctions, all the crossings were at level. There were all these big roundabouts. But they created a problem in crossing traffic, and there was huge holdups at every junction. So a decision was taken to raise the junctions to what is called a grade separated junction. So you have traffic going through, running above, and then also traffic crossing below. We have currently programmed seven grade separated junctions. I think 4 are done, 3 are in progress. And that is why between October last year, I think, November last year, and when COVID started, which was around March, traffic had actually eased because of those grade separated junctions. And when you create grade separated junctions, it requires more land than previously around the roundabouts. So land acquisition delayed the Northern Bypass significantly. We still actually have disputes, people who fight each other for the small land that they have. Then we had the swamps. At the time, swamps were running as they're supposed to do as drainage places for Kampala. Then people began to block swamps. When they block swamps, the water goes on top. And so the swamp clearing people from the swamps, that took a lot of time. The flooding, we had to realign in some places to change alignment because of water coming to the road, which was being blocked by construction. So there have been multiple delays on the Northern Bypass, and we've had markets coming, these markets which spring up everywhere. They also interfere with the work. Now we are hacking at these problems one by one, and I know Ugandans really have suffered a lot with traffic because of all these problems, but we will get there. We are watching very closely and monitoring that this road is completed.
Andrew just sent in a question. What contingency plans are you having for the work backlog that UNRA will experience due to COVID? Don't you think there will be adjustments in your strategic work plan?
Exactly. Absolutely right, Andrew. What's going to happen is that we will have to rework every program, every project program to see how we can fit within the time, and if not, give extension of time. Because this COVID did not give us warning. We could not hold anybody responsible for it. And logically, when this happens, you must adjust your plans. So yes, there will be an adjustment of plans.
All right, there was a question on who bears the cost for delays in compensation for, say, critical oil roads, the northern bypass. Is it the contractor or is it government?
Well, it depends on who has caused the delay. If, for example, we are struggling with people who have cases in court or who have no access to, who don't have land titles, then it means that the project is delayed and the contractor will charge government for idle time. So what happens if we're not able to give land to the contractor and he has people and equipment on site, he will charge us. That's why we always want these cases settled very quickly so that we do not have to pay so much in claims to the contractors.
Another question from the Infrastructure magazine. I think these guys better hire me as their correspondent. Could you elaborate a bit more on how UNRA is planning to use technology along its various processes to gain operational leverage, efficiency, cost reduction, etc. post-COVID-19?
Okay, it would be good, I think, if we had an engagement with the Infrastructure magazine office so that we can actually demonstrate to them the technology we're using, for example, in the road condition assessments, in the various systems that have been put in place, so that we are able to accurately tell the condition of the road and also plan when to intervene when we need to intervene. And so until you are in our business, in our processes, everything looks like it's done on site. But we do a lot of planning, and a lot of our planning is technology based. We're also increasing our capacity in project monitoring so that project monitoring is also technologically empowered or facilitated. So yes, the companies, any company that enhances ICT is able to provide services faster. So not only are we using ICT and building and technology in road construction, but also in other services like payment and land acquisition. There are multiple systems that are in place.
Okay, I have two last questions because I see this broadcast can only permit us an hour. We're already 43 minutes in. How did time fly? I understand that you have at least 23 road projects that you're supposed to be upgrading. Am I right?
I think 28 or 29.
Okay, so Nasali again asks, could you just briefly break down for us the 2020-2021 budget and which roads are in plan in that budget, if you can?
Oh, wow. Actually, I have to get offline for my documents and read this for you. I don't know if Sheila will permit me to do this, but I actually can't do that right now.
Okay. All right. So Jason, guys, I'm really sorry because I need to touch into other areas like her leadership roles, everything else. So we might have to pause a bit on the COVID issues. But let me just grab maybe one last question from Jason. Where are you, Jason? I couldn't find it. Okay. How do you play with limited financing from Ministry of Finance for your projects, yet with massive projects that require heavy financing?
So what we do is you prioritize. You know, road projects take about, a typical road project will be about 3 years, 36 months. And we try and not take on too many projects that we cannot complete. So what we do, we work out a schedule of payment of which roads we're going to do when, and that's what we submit to Ministry of Finance for funding. Now, of course, there's a lot of pressure from Ugandans. There are many people who'd like more roads done. And we're often bashed on social media. Why isn't this road done? Why isn't that road done? Simply often it's because we actually don't have the money to do it when you want them done. But we schedule them for the outer years. That's why we have a 5-year plan that will tell us when we're going to do which road.
Okay, so I need you to, I don't know if you probably know this, but I've heard that every time there's an idea that a road or a major UNRA project is going to be constructed or implemented in an area, some senior people rush to those areas, buy land, and then inflate those prices, the land prices and all those things. So there's a question here. Most people have always complained that UNRA has displaced them without compensation and consent. Which criteria do you always follow to compensate these people?
Okay, first of all, road projects are not secret. There's nothing confidential about a road project. In fact, before we take on a road project, it's announced in the budget. So everybody knows in Uganda knows which road is going to be done. Number one. Number two, we then have community engagements with the people where the road is going to pass. We do resettlement action plan. So everybody gets to know that a road is going to pass here. In addition, we do stakeholder engagements. So there is no secret. Now, if people go and buy land go and start acquiring land along those corridors, it is only because they think they're going to get more from government. Unfortunately, for a number of them, we often don't always follow that same alignment because there are so many reasons why we will have an initial and then realign. They could be a forest, or they could be a swamp, they could be some significant cultural infrastructure that we will not tamper with. So we realign. Now, those who rush to buy land this side will find themselves with land they bought, but they will not get the compensation they expected. Why do we take time to compensate those whom we have verified and even disclosed the amount? It's usually a funding issue. The money may not be enough when we need to pay. So we again continue prioritizing. When we're acquiring land, the idea is to make sure we have enough land to give a contractor to work with so that he does not have to stop. And that means we will spread the money thinly on all the projects that are running at that time.
Okay, last question from Ed Tum. You say, what is UNRA doing to increase local content in terms of companies involved in road construction? Are there any special concessions in place to favor local companies? Boo-boo, basically.
Yes, absolutely. Under the law, under the PPDA law, we are required to give 30% of all government of Uganda funded projects to a local company. So that means if you have a big road, which is funded by the government of Uganda and it has been won, say, by an international company, by law, they must subcontract a local company so that they participate, build capacity, and some money remains here. But we also have an initiative with the Association of Construction and Building Engineers, where we meet quite regularly and they bring out all the challenges they have encountered as they've participated in construction, and we try and resolve those issues. Finally, all projects below 45 billion are reserved just for local companies. I don't want to say Ugandan companies because that has a different legal meaning. So all local companies we reserve those projects. Anything below 45 billion. So we have many local companies doing maintenance, not too many doing upgrading, but can be subcontractors for the international companies.
Okay. All right. So there's another one here. Oh man. People are saying I should bring you back. Please allow me to bring you back when time permits you.
Sure, no problem.
Grace Aida, you say the trucks of sand on Masaka Road, please crack the whip. They are finishing up the surface. Who's even in charge of maintaining that road and ensuring that there are not all these heavy trucks on Masaka Road?
Yes, it's an absolute nightmare sometimes for us. As the economy has grown, construction of buildings has really grown, especially in the urban areas. So people go pick their sand from Masaka. In fact, as you've seen, if you drive along that road, there's a place called Sand City, meaning that's basically where people pick their sand for road construction. It's a booming business. Now, sand is very destructive, especially when it's wet. When wet sand falls on the tarmac, it's very easy that vehicles can actually skid off the road. But the water, nothing destroys tarmac more than water that remains on the tarmac, because it begins to go through the cracks and widens the cracks, and very soon you have a major pothole. So what we have done, or what we've been doing with a lot of difficulty, because we have running battles with these sand trucks that are overloaded. We have an enforcement team along Rueda, that Rueda region. And we work together with the territorial police, we work with the local authorities. Now, unfortunately, when we enhanced enforcement, then they began to use the village routes. Now, village routes are not tarmac. So they began to destroy the village routes. But our people are very alert. So they began to report this to us. And so we now go in and bring people into back onto the main road, and we charge them under the law. Mm-hmm. But it's a difficult issue with sand.
Okay, guys, I'm really, really sorry, because it's now 4:51 and at exactly 5 we're going to be cut off. So let me just pause a bit on the issues of COVID-19 and just ask her to give us some motivation, especially the ladies who are watching. How have you been able to handle the different roles, Alan, that you've held? You have family, you have all these balancing acts that you have to do. How have you been able to achieve that?
I don't think I have a magic wand. I think I do what I can as best as I can, like any normal human being. I don't have special discipline like more than anyone else. But I have always believed that I can do anything. I've had great opportunities in life, and I've taken advantage of them. I love to work hard. My team knows that. And I expect them to work hard too. So anybody who works with me must be working hard as well. Otherwise, we clash. But the driving thing to progress, especially to ladies, you must have your values that you do not compromise. Integrity. Anytime you have compromised on integrity, you have disempowered yourself for the future. So you must be upright so nobody can hold anything against you. And there will be times when it will be difficult. So you choose whether you will bend and be compromised, or you will be the bad person. For me, the choice has always been clear. Secondly, and perhaps this should have been first, I serve God. Number one, I am a born-again Christian. I've been saved for a very long time, from the time I was 15 years old, in school. And so it kind of shapes you. The biblical values shape your values, and you know that you're serving God. And there's nothing like serving a God who you know is ever present. Sometimes people cheat from their employers because their employer is not watching, but God is. And for me, I have a relationship with God. He's with me, and he not only holds me accountable, but he supports me. So young ladies out there is nothing you cannot do. The government has empowered women so much. If we fail ourselves, if we don't take chances, we fail ourselves if we think these jobs belong to men only. And we fail ourselves when we allow people to step on us. So it's out there, it's good for you, step in there. And Uganda really is waiting for you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Last question. I know you've been very passionate about the enforcement of COVID-19 restrictions and directives by the president. Can you just give us a message, or what would you tell Ugandans who appear to have been, or to be in fatigue and perhaps forgotten that they must wear those masks and assure and, respect what the Ministry of Health has been saying?
Yeah, well, one must go back to the decision on whether you want to live for tomorrow, or you want to compromise now and perhaps not live for tomorrow, and put at risk your children and your family and all the people you work with. When COVID was announced, I took a decision. I was going to stay home. I was going to work from home because I live with quite a number of people, and I didn't want them to have to pick this from me. Secondly, I knew that this is a very easy thing to do. Washing hands, really. Washing hands, we shouldn't have to think about it. We didn't need COVID to tell us to wash our hands. And this virus, as destructive as it is very easy to deal with. Wash your hands. Wash your hands and you will not get it. Keep distance. I am shocked when you go through town now at how many people think this is a joke. I can tell you there are countries who don't think it's a joke. They are numbering 89,000 deaths today. Can you imagine? From a viral infection. So we need to be really serious. We have been fortunate. We do not have any deaths, but the numbers grow. We've also been very fortunate that the community numbers are not growing, but we have people who have come in with it. And so keeping distance, 2 meters at least, washing your hands regularly, wearing a face mask, and a cloth mask will do because a lot of people cannot afford these medical masks. A double, I can't remember what the word is, cloth mask. It will protect you. And then you exercise, have hygiene in your home, and please, please, please listen to the Ministry of Health. They've done a good job and we must all salute them for the excellent work they've done. But these are easy things to do and we must do them.
I need to let you go. My time is also up. And Andrew asks, what's your most favorite verse of the Bible?
I can tell you that right now, there is a scripture in Ruth chapter 3, verse 18. My favorite scripture. Now, I usually say favorite scripture, but this is it right now. Ruth chapter 3, verse 18 says that this man will not stop until he has accomplished everything that he said he would do. That's my verse. That Jesus will not stop anything for me or for whoever I pray for until he has accomplished what he said he would do. That's my verse.
Thank you so much, Alan Kagina, and I'm glad that you've allowed me to call you Alan Kagina without the titles, and so it really gives me great joy that you've even permitted to speak to us for an hour out of your very busy schedule. Thank you so much. I must admit that this has been the most active interaction that I've had on this chat. Thank you so much, Alan. I really, really appreciate it. Guys,
thank you, Sheila.
Thank you so much. I need to let you go now, yeah?
Sure. Bye.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you. So, Alan, thank you so much for joining us. I've seen Alan Sempe, who is the spokesperson of UNRA, has said, if you have any questions, please go to his DM strictly questions regarding UNRA and COVID and any other questions that you might have, and they'll be glad to respond. Yeah, I'm very sorry if I didn't ask any of the questions that you sent in, but I hope you understand that we are limited by time, but also there's loads and loads of people that were asking, and I really hope that I can get Alan some time so we can exhaust all these conversations and questions that you had sent in earlier. Thank you so much, Alan. Oh, there's Alan and Alan. Alan, thank you so much for making this possible. And thank you everyone that tuned in. I want to appreciate Jumia Uganda for making this possible. Thank you so much for powering and sponsoring this broadcast. My next guest next week is Mr. Patrick Mweheire, the former CEO of Stanbic Bank. Yeah, we're going to be discussing the future of banking, the future of work, the future of everything post-COVID-19. So please tune in. I'm rushing because they're counting me down and they might throw this broadcast if I don't end now and save it so you guys can tune in. If you missed this broadcast or if you've just joined us, please go to my timeline. You'll be able to catch everything. Thank you guys. Bye-bye. I don't want to lose this broadcast, so I have to go now. Cheers.